What's going on, guys? My name is Damien. Welcome back. So I'm bringing you a bonus video here. We're going to talk about Arrow, and I'm interested to hear your thoughts and opinions. So please sound off in the comment section down below. I do appreciate any feedback, and of course, leave a like on the video, share the video, and subscribe if you're new. It does help me out, helps grow the channel, so I do appreciate that. So let's get right into it. I just have some things I wanted to talk about. So if you are subscribed to this channel and you are subscribed to my clips channel, you would notice that there has been a lack of Arrow related content from me, and that has never happened before because I generally enjoyed the show. I think it's just gotten to this point now where I find it hard to generally keep watching or be entertained as I'm watching the show, and I feel like I can just do something else, like spend my time elsewhere with another show or doing something else in general. So when I think about this show, I think about a lot of the core problems, and that's what we're going to talk about today. And to break it down, I'm going to list off 5 things that would make Arrow just an overall better show. So let's get right into it. Number 5, I'm going to start with the plot. And why are we going to talk about the plot? Well, I've noticed a trend here. It seems that every single villain that they have in Arrow wants to destroy Star City. It's become such a common trend at this point that I don't even expect them to do anything else when they are announced as a villain. Since Malcolm Merlyn's undertaking in Season 1, every single character since then has pretty much wanted to do the exact same thing. And here we are 4 seasons in, and Damien Darhk is still trying to do the exact same thing. It's just crazy to me when you think about so much that you can possibly do with Arrow and just the entire show as a whole, that this is the only plotline you can pull every single season. Now, Season 1 and 2 I completely understand because the show was still kind of working things out and they were establishing characters, and a lot of the motivations of those characters felt warranted and justifiable. Slade Wilson, his connection with Oliver Queen, it makes perfect sense that he would want to do that. His overall character, all of it made sense to me. And the Season 1 villain of Malcolm Merlyn made sense. Just being the first season of the show, you can do whatever you want as far as the villain and his motivations. It was totally fine. So the plot obviously needs to change. And that brings me to number 4, because they clearly could do a lot more with the overall plot of Arrow here. So number 4, source material. Source material is a big problem on this show, and why it's a big problem is every time I think about Arrow, I think about just how many things they have done on this show that is the complete opposite of what the comics represent or have depicted over the years. Now, whenever you're doing a show, obviously you're not going to be able to replicate something canon 100% of the way. You're always expected to do adjustments and adapt as you go along. It's understandable. But when you stray so far away from the source material, you're left with something where you just don't know what to expect. And there's a lot of viewers that basically will say, we're done with the show. We're just not going to watch anymore because we don't know what you're going to do. And a lot of people value their time in a way where they're not going to commit to something like that because they don't know. It's unpredictable. There's a variable that you just can't control. For example, like with the Marvel movies in the cinematic universe, everyone knows there's a bigger picture. There's an end game. So you know that when they started Phase 1 and they did Iron Man and everything like that and moved into Phase 2, everyone knew it was building to an Avengers movie. So even if some of those movies weren't as amazing, you knew that the greater picture was coming up. That was what people were looking forward to. And the same thing could be said about a TV show, because if you build something over time, you know that you could be leading into a final season or even a 5th season or 6th season where it just is so amazing, or you at least have some compelling storylines to actually go with. Now, they have strayed very far from the source material, because if they did that in the Marvel movies, for example, and they changed everything, let's say there was no Avengers Initiative, things would be really different and people would not be happy about it. You also would be really just in this gray area where no one knows what exactly is going to happen. So, and that's what Arrow has done. Arrow has sacrificed characters that have been in the comics for so long and basically reduced their screen time in favor of other things. And obviously everyone knows what I am referring to when I say other things. Other things is putting it mildly. So That's just one of the biggest issues. Why is it that the Red Arrow, or Arsenal, which is basically the Roy Harper depiction, why was he reduced? Why was he removed from the show? There's so much more they could have done with his storyline. They just never really fleshed it out, and he was never really given enough time to develop. Now, Black Canary, she becomes a main character, or she has been a main character, but as far as being Black Canary, she became that character for not even only about a season or so. She was given just about one season. I think it was the first time she officially donned the costume was towards the end of season 3, so she really hasn't had that much time to actually be that character. So how have you sacrificed these characters in favor of other things? So if they made improvements there and brought those characters back into the fold, and of course if they were to do that, if they were to bring Earth 2 Black Canary back into the picture, then, and you reintroduced the Roy Harper character again, the whole death plotline that you wasted so much time on in season 4 would have just amounted to nothing. It would have just been wasted time altogether. So it's something that's very unlikely. So that brings me to number 3. So this one is a personal favorite of mine. This one I'm going to just look at it as the greater universe, the DC small screen universe, their extended universe that they have been really great about introducing initially when it came to setting up characters like the Flash and doing Legends of Tomorrow. They need to understand that this is a great way of giving new life to Arrow. They just don't ever use the Earth 2 scenario. They like to, basically just because of the fact that the Flash was the one that kind of originated it, because of them being able to travel to different Earths and so on, it's almost like it's exclusively locked to the Flash TV show, when it really isn't. You can definitely introduce Earth 2 characters that are present in the Arrow universe specifically and bring them over to the Arrow TV show, like just the way they did Earth 2 Laurel Lance, like I mentioned earlier. You could easily bring her character back and have her on the show. I know it's definitely unlikely. It probably is something that won't happen, but it is something that you could really hope for. They need to use these storylines. They need to pull villains from Earth 2 of the Arrow universe. Let's take a look at Star City, Earth 2. What if we have a conversation between Oliver Queen and his father, Robert Queen, from Earth 2? That is a very interesting conversation if it ever happens. That there's so much they could do. And it doesn't have to be a half-season long storyline. It could be a few episodes. It still gives you something to look forward to. Using that Earth 2, using that Flash universe, acknowledging it, is really just one of the key things that Arrow just does not do. They need that. The Flash has way more diversity with its storylines. Yes, Zoom has been the dominant force for this season, but there was a lot of other things happening as well. The show just keeps moving forward. So that brings me to number 2. Oliver Queen himself, the character, the star of the show. The show is called Arrow, yet I'm not sure I'm really buying him being an actual archery major, if you want to call it that way, or a specialist, because he doesn't even seem to use arrows that much anymore, and he just fights a lot of guys now. But I remember, if you think back to season 1 and 2, especially when he was dealing with the Slade Wilson army of Mirakuru injected guys, the super soldiers, he could take down so many guys by himself. You know, Team Flash wasn't exactly, Team Arrow wasn't exactly the strongest at the time, and a lot of members were either not there or whatever the case may be. He really had Felicity and Diggle and so on. But he was able to take care of a lot of guys by himself, and now it seems like he's just always getting owned by guys. He just gets destroyed easily, taken down, and he just struggles against like 3 to 4 or 5 guys. It's always a problem for him. The Oliver Queen in the comics is depicted as a master combatant with skills in archery. He's basically Bruce Wayne minus, I don't know, let's say like minus 95 masteries of different martial arts. He's a lower version of Bruce Wayne, so he's able to take care of things. He can handle himself very well, and his proficiency in archery is second to none. He's the greatest marksman in the DC comics as far as I'm aware. So their overall handling of his character and the Oliver Queen character just doesn't really have that believable status that he had before. When he came back to Star City and he was doing everything that he did, it felt like he was on this mission. There was just so much more to his character. A lot of it has just fallen away. So I look for improvements from Stephen Amell on that side of things. He also needs to bring a more believable aspect to the character. Things like that are just missing. And, you know, like I said, guys, share your thoughts and opinions on this. So, number one, the biggest problem that Arrow faces, the one thing that will, if removed, will make the show a lot better. What am I referring to, you might ask? The Felicity Smoak character. And I know a lot of people are definitely upset. A lot of people are definitely going to agree, but it's just the nature of Arrow. This is just the way the show is. And Felicity as a character has ruined Arrow in so many ways. So many ways that you guys, if you like the Felicity character, may not even understand, or really may just not care, I guess. But there's a lot to be said when you see tons of videos and tons of people supporting this idea that just can't stand Felicity, and that also agree that she is the biggest problem this show has. Her character is all-consuming. Her storylines take up way too much time. Her mom is getting more screen time now than some other characters, which is absurd to me. Her dad comes on the show, and there's a reason why. Episode 20 and 21, I haven't really seen them. I've watched like bits and pieces, but I tried watching those 2 episodes, and I remember constantly being like, okay, every time I left the room and I came back into the room, there was Felicity talking with her dad. There was Felicity talking with her mom. There was Felicity talking with Oliver or Thea or whoever it was, Diggle. She was just always there. And there's just so much of her character that needs to be stripped away. She has way too much screen time. Screen time that should be allocated to characters that really need that screen time to push more storylines. Felicity's character is just so, it's just so dominant. It's just like all powerful, just being. It's a force that just, it can't be stopped. And I would much rather see a Laurel Lance character, someone that actually has so many layers to her, a character that is canon, a character that is an official DC hero. Like the fact that she was a hero on the show, the fact that she had so much going on with her character, really would allow them to just spread their wings a lot more with this, with the way the show is handled. But they have this Oliver and Felicity relationship as the anchor of the show, and that is a bad thing to do. Barry and Iris is not the anchor of the Flash. They clearly establish what Barry and Iris is, even though she is heavily weighted into Barry's overall character. There's a lot more going on in the Flash, and it's never ever dominant like that. And this is the biggest problem that Arrow has. And if they continue doing this, less and less people are going to watch. And Mark Guggenheim, he is gonna see that just killing off Laurel, prioritizing the feedback of Tumblr, just was the wrong choice. And people continue to downvote and leave the show. It's just the nature of the way things are going. People, value their time, like I'm saying, so people are just not really happy with the show. And if you look at most of their reasons, it's Felicity. I checked an IGN review out of curiosity to see what their score was going to be for the episode, and one of the negatives they gave the episode was Felicity's storyline. There's a lot to be said when even a popular site like IGN will say that her character just takes up way too much screen time and has way too much invested in the show. She needs to be cut so that they can allow other characters to receive more screen time. There's no scenario in which she should have more screen time than Thea and Roy Harper combined, 2 characters that are canon. And she also probably has more screen time at this point than Katie Cassidy as Laurel. So those are just my thoughts, guys. Let me know what you think. Obviously, I know a lot of people are going to disagree with the Felicity statements, but it is what it is. So I will see you guys in another video. Thank you for watching.